Hello, Susan Alamo, and I'm here speaking out for another half hour with my guest Bill Leary, and will you stay right here with us? We're going to do something that you'll like if you'll just stay with us for the next half hour. And now I give you the Alamo Quartet singing One Day at a Time.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus, I'm only human. I'm just a man. Lord, help me believe in what I can be and all that I am. Show me the stairway that I have to climb. Lord, for my sake, won't you teach me to take one day at a time? One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time. Now do you remember when you walked amongst me? Jesus, you know, if you're looking below, Lord, it's worse now than then. There's pushing and shoving. Lord, it's crowding my mind. Lord, for my sake, won't you teach me to take one day at a time? One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today, won't you show me the way, one day at a time. Lord, help me today, show me the way, one day at a time.
My guest, Bill Leary. And Bill, just look at you. Now you come down here from the east, all dressed in white, and here you are, you look just like Will Rogers.
I don't know something, Tony. Susan.
Don't call me Tony. You almost did it.
I started to say Tony and Susan has put me in an outfit. I am the most relaxed I ever have been in my life. So if I start off snoring on this telecast, it'll be
Don't
your
do
fault.
that.
These are the most comfortable clothes I've ever had on.
See, the people in Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, they know how to dress, Bill.
I know it. And they're smarting up. They're getting smart out east, too. You go in all the drugstores, the clothing stores, the chain stores, and they all have Western clothing now.
I know they do.
The people are getting wild.
Oh, Madison Avenue. You see people now walking down Madison Avenue, Beverly Hills, with big Western hats and
Right.
jeans, Western shirts. Oh, it's the big thing now.
It's the only way to go.
That's right. That's the way it is.
Amen.
So how do you like being down in Arkansas?
Oh, I love it down here. You know, I've shared with you, Susan. It's such a blessing to come see
Yeah, you've been here before.
Oh, I've been here once before. It's been about 3 years ago.
Uh-huh. Been down to visit us in Tennessee.
Right, in Nashville.
Has anyone ever told you you look like Will Rogers?
Yes.
Who told you that?
Jane Withers. She said Will was her favorite friend before he got killed in the aircraft accident. And she came in one day into the television studio, and she said I looked exactly like him, and she just fell in love with me, she said. It was a thrill. Of course, he was a wonderful gentleman.
Yes, he was.
And it's very complimentary to be...
Very controversial, very outspoken.
Oh, yes. We love what he said, though.
Yes.
I'm old
Yes, he
enough
told
that
the
I
truth.
really appreciate what he said.
Told the truth, you know.
He sure did.
You know, he'd make comedy out of it, but he sure told the truth. He said it just like it was. Bill, you was with Pat Robertson at CBN how many years?
A little over 8 years. The Lord let me work there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was...
Well, you started there when...
I started there back in '72.
When they just started the station?
Well, it's actually when they started getting some numbers. They had been on the air for about 12 years prior to that, but things had not really amounted to much. They were just expanding at the time I went there. They had 2 stations, 2 television stations. Only one of them was doing much, the one in Portsmouth. But then they opened up the station in Dallas, and then they went on into Boston, and they had 6 radio stations in upstate New York. And it was such a pleasure. The Lord allowed me to work in that ministry and help it expand. And I was just so grateful for it to God. It was such a privilege and a blessing.
But all the time, even that you was with Pat Robertson and CBN, you have always had a tremendous interest in helping other people with ministries across the country and helping them and securing station time and even setting up personal speaking engagements for different ministers and evangelists across country. I know for years, Bill, that you did that. And now that you have more free time on your hands, I guess you're doing more of it than you ever did before.
Yes, I am. You know, God has blessed me with a help ministry of leading people to me who have been called to preach. And God allows me to use my little bit of knowledge to help them expand their ministry. And I have been so truly blessed with some of the best ministries in this country. Needless to say, the Alamo Foundation has not been the least either. He's allowed me to work with you now for about 7 years.
Yes.
And I've thoroughly been blessed by it, Susan.
Bill, you've been a blessing to us.
Well, not as much as you have to me. I don't think it's possible to be affiliated with an organization. These people are so beautiful. I have never in my life seen so much harmony as I have in the Alamo Foundation among
You've
the
always
little
talked
children.
about that.
Well, you go there and you feel the Spirit of God. His presence is there as much as any place on this earth today. I think of the Garden of Eden almost when I see how harmony reigns there among the little children and everybody involved in it. It's just such a blessing to me.
You went to the prayer meeting with Tony at 8 o'clock this morning?
That was the next thing to being in the rapture. It really was. It was such a blessing.
God's really there, isn't he?
He really was. I took him
you know,
there and he was already there.
I remember the last time that you was in one of our services here in Arkansas, and you made the remark that you felt God stronger there than any place that you had ever felt him.
I still do, yeah. He's where his people love him and where they lift him up.
Bill,
he's
where we lift him up and where we're keeping his commandments, where there's evangelism.
Amen.
Now, you know, so many people, they get the idea that they mistake meekness for weakness, you know, and they think that in order to be a Christian, everything is just a smile and, you know, that's the love of God.
Right.
Just to have a good disposition, and that isn't quite true. That is really the way it is. You know, that all the greats in evangelism, they were battlers.
They sure were.
They were fighters. There never was one of them. You know, the Apostle Paul didn't say, I smiled a good smile. He said, I fought a good fight.
Amen.
And they're in there for a purpose, and they've given their lives to win souls for Jesus Christ. And they don't really care about anything else. That's their sole purpose, and you can feel that When you go into a group like that have laid down their lives and picked up the cross and follow Jesus Christ and do His will, not their will, but His will, you feel that. And you feel the nearness of God to them, of how the Lord dwells among them and lives. He lives among them.
Well, Susan, you know, the thing that I sense, it's not that the people in the foundation walk around with a little silly grin on their face. That doesn't bring it to mind at all. But they have that peace that God describes in His Word as passing all understanding. And they have the joy unspeakable in the serenity of the group, how calm and peaceful everything, and how well organized everything is. And there's no one ever seems to be the least bit distraught about anything, and nobody ever gets uptight. Well, to me, that reflects God's presence. Is that, as Paul said, in the midst of turmoil, I still have the joy. You know, in jail, he lifted up his hands in words in praise to God, right in the middle of the jail, and after he had been severely beaten. He had the joy of the Lord, but he didn't, you know, just go around grinning. He had it in him.
Yes, he did.
And he knew God was with him. Even where he was in the dungeon, God was with him.
But you know, there's such a difference in this, so much of this new modernism of placid, you know, and there's a tremendous difference between a placid of just a lot of times complete unconcern, you know, for souls and things around people. And there's such a difference, though, where that fire of evangelism burns in people. There's such a purpose in the lives of people like that. Like one crew will be here in Arkansas, and maybe they'll be working in a service station. The next day, you'll see them in the restaurant. The next day, they'll be someplace else working, maybe on heavy equipment. And then maybe in California, Tennessee, Arizona, you know, New York, wherever. But always witnessing. Always. That's the sole purpose. They'll come back from a trip on a plane and say, "Oh, I had the most beautiful experience today. I sat down beside a lady, she was in her 50s, and I asked her if she knew Jesus Christ as her personal Savior, and she said that she attended a church, but I began to question her, and I began to realize that she wasn't really born again. And I led her to the Lord on the plane. We held hands and asked Jesus to come into her heart. And then you'll get a testimony from someone over in Tennessee. Someone came in the store. And I began to talk to them about their soul, and I began to talk to them about Christ and what it meant to really know Him in reality, to really be born again. And took them back to the back and was able to kneel down beside them and lead them to Christ and see them gloriously born again. And there's the answer to it. You know, the Lord tells us, how can we say we love Him whom we have not seen, if we have not love for the brethren whom we have seen?
That's right. Amen to that.
And if we don't have that purpose and that desire in our hearts, and oh, Bill, let me tell you, that's when every little imp in Hades is going to go after
Absolutely.
you. I tell you, Satan calls them all in.
They get
and
excited.
He says, you go after that bunch. I don't care what you have to do. You lie about them. You put grievous burdens upon them. You do everything in this world that you can do to get these people stopped. And He doesn't stop at anything. He doesn't miss a thing.
Well, there's one thing for sure, Susie. If there's no fight, there's no victory.
That's the truth.
And if there's no victory won, there's no real joy in achieving something that's difficult.
Right.